Welcome back to another episode of the Zeus podcast. I'm your host, Zeus the Prophet, and not even the force of Mother Nature can stop it, but I can. Before we begin today's conversation, I just want to take a moment to give thanks to God for bringing people together through music, through wisdom, through creativity, through truth, and an authentic human connection. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, Lord, bless this conversation today. Bless everyone watching and listening around the world. May this discussion bring insight and healing, wisdom, inspiration, and peace to those who really need it the most. Father, guide our words, protect our energy, and come from a place of truth, authenticity, and light. Amen. Today, we are sitting with somebody whose journey through music carries experience, resilience, artistry, real artistry, and authenticity through multiple eras of the creative world. This is not just about music, fam. This is about survival through creativity. This is about purpose, passion, humanity, and the soul behind the sound. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome a true Melbourne talent and a multifaceted creative force, Mark Gardner. Mark is a seasoned singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, performer, and teacher who has poured his heart into the local music scene for over 15 years. And the host of the show at 97.1 FM Community Radio, Brass Off with Mark Gardner, is every Friday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's a 2-hour show focused on brass music, local artists, interviews, and music that brasses you off in a good way. With more than 1,000 gigs under his belt, more than 4 albums released, and bands like Bricks and Mortar, The Broken Sweethearts, and his current project, Mark Gardner and The Great Divide, he's become a familiar and respected voice across iconic Melbourne venues, from the Prince of Wales to the Espy to St Kilda Festival. Beyond the stage, Mark brings a thoughtful presence and perspective shaped by his experiences both as an artist and technologist, especially navigating the challenges creatives face in tough times, whether he's crafting soulful original songs or collaborating with fellow musicians or mentoring the next generation. His work is grounded in authenticity, resilience, and a genuine love for connecting people through music. So tonight, we're going to blast off with Blast Off, a Melbourne national treasure, musician and radio personality areas. So, Mark, welcome to the Zeus podcast. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. How you going? All right?
I'm all right. Nice to see you, man. How's your day?
Yeah, pretty active. Yeah, pretty busy. Yeah, did a bit of rehearsal today, actually, with my duo partner as well today.
Nice. So I wanted to go back to the very beginning. With every guest, with every episode, I'd like to get to know who they are as a person. In order to do that, I have to go back to your origins. Now, where were you born, Mark, and how were you like as a child? Were you a deep thinker?
I was born in Mitcham Hospital, private hospital. But yeah, basically grew up in Croydon. I guess I was pretty much a thinker and a huge listener of different things, sounds and things when I was growing up, I guess. As a child, I got into toy saxophones and toy this and toy that. So I used to love playing around with Star Wars figures and things like that with Lego. Used to love Meccano, Lego. I used to love enjoying putting those Tandy kits together, and later on those electronic kits that J-Car put out, or Dick Smith at the time. Tronic World in Croydon was a big place to visit for me as a kid. So I got into a lot of early radio, making wireless little AM radios as a kid. But yeah, sort of, I guess I was pretty much a thinker, as a kid, and a pretty friendly kid too. I used to muck around with some of the kids in the neighbourhood. Used to love animals as well, so I used to get
Beautiful.
Take my friend's dog for a walk. Used to be called Tramp, and that was a bit of fun.
Nice. So were you close to your mum and dad? Mum more or dad more?
Probably dad more than mum, but yeah, still pretty close. Yeah, I mean, we were pretty close-knit family. So yeah, grew up in a pretty lucky, to be had a fairly normal lifestyle, I guess, up until, I suppose, the last, I guess this last decade's been an interesting one with COVID coming up. But yeah, grew up really, really quickly as a kid. I guess I got into a lot of different things and sports. Dad was really into sport. Obviously, marathon running was a big one, and umpiring for Dad. And I sort of launched into that later on and did some fun runs, and probably not as fit as Dad, but didn't really have a chance to do a marathon as yet. But you never know. There's still time yet.
Yeah,
but
never say never.
I did run the boundaries as a more of a boundary umpire, if you like, for some of the amateur league. So that was good fun. And
Wow.
certainly done
Wow.
the Puffing Billy run, and certainly done the Herald Sun run, and done a lot of fun runs in my time. A lot of running. Was also a state walking champion, so I did quite well athletics
Wow.
later on. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I was a middle distance runner, doing a lot of 1,500 meters when I was growing up, and also got into, I guess, playing piano at 8. Got into playing a lot of keyboards and piano pretty young, I guess, compared to a lot of my other constituents and friends, I guess, at the time. So I got into a lot of music theory, understanding music principles, pretty young age, so 8 onwards. And then as soon as I hit high school, I guess in between that, I sort of got into, obviously, electronics was another thing of mine, a hobby that I got into.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell us a bit more about that? As I'm very, very interested.
And bike riding. I used to love bike riding. So as a kid, I used to
Bike riding as well. Yeah,
yes,
me too.
BMXs and all that sort of stuff. You had the blue tufts and all that sort of stuff. You go to the BMX track and go on jumps and all that. So that was good
BMX
fun.
bandit.
That's it, mate. Yeah. But I had fun as a kid. I guess I grew up in a really good neighbourhood, close knit, good friends that I had as well. We used to go on, pretty extensive rides. But got into roller skating as well. So I think it was Xanadu came out. I think I got inspired to take up roller skating. I don't know. As a kid, 1980, I think it was.
I think
So
every kid once Xanadu came out. Yeah, absolutely.
Amongst other things. But the other thing was, I guess I started getting right into the music sort of side of things, playing piano. I got a little bit bored as a kid, I guess, and I hit high school and I took up trumpet. Yeah, so that's when I took up trumpet. I was probably 12, I think, when I took up trumpet, had the first play. And sat in second trumpet on concert band pretty much within the first 6 months. And then I was on first trumpet. I was mentored by a guy called Alex Parlis at the time. But my teacher was... now, that's going back a bit. John Hogg, who was a Salvation Army senior at the time, had a lot to do with the Salvation Army band and things like that. And so John Hogg was my principal cornet teacher or trumpet teacher at the time. So I managed to hire a trumpet for quite a while. I guess it was a year or two. And Dad bought my first trumpet, actually, in year 9, I think it was. And I was pretty rapt. I guess I sat on first trumpet too from about year 8. So I started playing like lead parts and solo parts in the school concert band where I went to school, which is Maroon High School, which was now it's called named Melbourne Secondary College these days, or Melbourne College
Secondary College, right?
Yeah,
you were born in Mitcham and you grew up in Croydon.
Yes,
and you went to I actually my uncle had a pizza shop in Mitcham for a long time called Mitcham Pizza. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Yes, that's nice pizza place. Yes,
like Michael and his wife Linda.
Oh yeah, I know who you mean.
Yeah, that's my uncle.
There you go.
So
nice people.
I'm very familiar to Mitcham, to Croydon. It's a beautiful area. Very, like you said, very family knit area. Do you remember the first moment you truly fell in love with music?
Yeah, I think it was 1980. I think it was when Dad started playing records on a Saturday morning quite regularly. I think too it was he would have been playing John Denver and ABBA, and I think at the time too we had
sure.
98. I think it was 1980 summer hits or something in it, but it had AC/DC on it, and it was one of their hits. I just can't remember at the top of my head, but it was definitely about that time, and that was featured on that album. I got that around somewhere. That album, 1980 summer hits. It does feature Reckless from Australian Crawl on it, so that's definitely one song that stood out to me. Reckless was one big song, but the AC/DC had a song there. She was a fast machine, me on mean. She shook me all night long. That's the song. I'm just trying to remember the lyric, but just that lyric stood out to me, and I thought, well, and John Farnham's song "Help," his version of "Help" was just blew me away, like his vocal and that little sax solo in there, and just I don't know, something
right. It was
appeared to my ears on that album. There's quite a few songs on it. More Than I Can Say, I think Leo Sayer, what a great singer. But John Farnham, what an awesome singer. But it also featured a lot of great classic hits like I just mentioned. You Shook Me All Night Long from AC/DC. How can you forget that song? It's just a massive song, full of Marshalls on 12, I reckon. But such a great tune featuring Angus Young and the Young Brothers. Yeah, Australian rock at its peak. At its peak, you know. It's but Australian Crawl, yeah, was featured on it. Downhearted, I think it was actually. Not Reckless, it was Downhearted.
So,
Was a problem.
yeah, I wanted to ask, how's life feeling for you right now, but
Oh, look,
creatively, personally, and spiritually?
yeah, look, I think really busy actually. I've got to say, I'm also studying at the moment, so it's been interesting. So
Wow.
I've gone back to study to do my grad cert of adult vocational education and training. So I believe in you never stop learning. So I always believed in that principle, and I still believe in it. And always something to learn. And I'm still learning lots of different things about people and how we learn. So, but one of the things that I've picked up,
Congratulations. That's a big thing. That's not easy to go back and
no,
study vocational
it's one of those things.
studies.
Yeah, but I mean, musically, creatively, it's just great fun. I'm exploring the collaborative sort of field of working with different people at the moment, which has been great. When I mean that, I mean that in terms of different organisations I play with as well. Like I play in the Croydon Brass Band on a Monday night rehearsing, and we just did a show on the weekend, Saturday. I felt really good in that because I'm playing Repiano cornet, which is quite an important part in a brass band. Because we tend to share the cornet tends to the rep part tends to share the part with the flugelhorn, and we tend to work off each other, but we also help out. Like I tend to play a lot of the solo parts as well for the solo cornet, so you tend to do doubling up. So it's a really integral part because it brings a lot of the sounds together in a brass band. But the other thing is too, I'm also involved with the Gully Big Band, which is every Friday night, and that's been great because I've been able to do the jazz, So I'm got a
Yeah,
few genres. Well, it's great to sort of play in that outfit because they play all sorts of jazz from Duke Ellington to all sorts of varieties of jazz, featuring charts from way back. And we also have guest singers come in, so we're often picking on other little songs that we play, like Sweet Georgia Brown, all that sort of stuff. There's lots of other things that we play in that too, some movie themes and some other, like the brass band does too. Like we did the VB theme, the Magnificent Seven theme in the brass band on the weekend, and I just like playing that. And I remember that as a kid being on TV, that Coldhouse.
Magnificent Seven, right?
Yeah. One of the bands at the moment, Horns of Leroy, play that, have a great version of that theme as well that they tend to play. So I tend to get inspired by, still very inspired by music and its themes. Spiritually,
Of course.
you mentioned spirituality and spiritually. So spiritually has certainly been a bit of awakening for me the last few years. I guess probably more so the last. Putting the teacher's hat on in the last 3 years, mainly being a new teacher, I guess, into the TAFE sector. I'm in my third year now. It's just been really interesting just working in that area. Because I taught privately.
Yeah, God bless you.
Music. No, look, I taught privately for about, quite a few years in terms of kids and adults, and that's probably introduced me to it. But obviously my keen aptitude with electronics and growing up, I certainly got into radio and made my first radio and transmitted at the age of 12, 13, with kits and that around locally. But later on, just to fix amplifiers and all sorts of gear, and I got into electronics and really got into it. And I was did my BSc at the age of, I think I was 17, or I was pretty young. So I did my BSc, 18, within 6 months anyway, and then I was 18, and I was studying the Associate Diploma of Engineering Electronics, and really got through into, I was pulled aside to work for one of the biggest barcoding companies at the time as well. It really got me into the technology side of things in a big way. Really, at a young age, I was probably one of the earliest to get into early wireless adoption in warehousing with barcoding inventory systems with wireless and you name it. And barcode
Yeah, I think you
labeling.
mentioned that once.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned that once when we were speaking on the phone as well. That's another
Well,
thing I admire about you too, is that your career is not just in one thing; it's in many things. But I wanted to ask you, brother, what does music mean to you today compared to 20 years ago?
now more than ever, probably more important. I think it's the engagement too. Now, when you play the live sense, I treat that really quite seriously because I think we can go all online now and see all the online stuff, but when you play live, it's different engagement, and you have to always be on be alert, I guess, and aware of people, and engage a little bit more and have a concerted effort about the human side. Yeah, I think and even to the extent to really to help out people too, and see where where you can play a role as a person as well, because you never know that that person may be going through a hard time. You don't know that person, and those
That's right.
people that are in the room, you don't know they may be going through a hard time. It's always to make it a more fun event and enjoy and create a bit of a home for them, if you like, of salvation, because spiritually they may not be aware or they might not be feeling that good. So it's always to make people feel good. And I think music is still the same thing, and that's what it does for me. And I like to share that with people and just, create that atmosphere where you feel relaxed, and just enjoy, because life's too short, right?
Exactly.
And spiritually,
Exactly.
music is still a big part of my life, and it's part of
Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you, spiritually, what does that mean to you?
Well, I love that. I guess that's why I joined the Croydon Brass Band again, because they play a lot of hymns, but they also play a lot of other marches. But I think it's the hymns that you sort of relate to in a spiritual sense in a church, or in a setting, a religious setting. Sort of takes me back a bit. As a child, I grew up in the Anglican church, if you like, and sort of understood a lot of the spirituality behind God and Jesus, and just understanding.
So you are religious but are more spiritual than anything else, right?
Yeah, look, I probably, I think, thank goodness for music, because it sort of re-invited me into that arm again. But I'm quite open for the spirituality. I think we've got to be open for a lot of different things as musicians, or as people, as humans. I mean, technology is playing a big part in our lives now, but I think you still need that human side. You can't automate everything. You know what I mean? You can't. AI is all the
And
talk at the moment. And
there
the
never
EV can't
will be
overcontrol
a
life.
full automation. There will
No,
never be a full automation. There will
no,
have to be still humans controlling it and running it and coding it. And
yeah.
even if that coding side is taken over by AI as well, even if the maintenance part of that, even if robots build robots, you can't replace a human soul, their
Exactly.
spirit. You
Look,
can't transfer onto an instrument. That
yeah,
comes from the soul.
and growing up, when I was I grew up in Croydon. I worked at the local grocery store, and I saw the change of tech back then, from manual registers to barcode scanning coming in. So basically, the barcode actually took over from where you would put in the 4-digit PLU code, or product lookup code, in a cash register, right, for the products to come through.
Mm.
So if that was a grocery item or a veggie item, you put that 4 code in, or whatever that code was for that product where you got it from. And you still put the price in, you see, but now that barcode was able to replace it, because it was able to look up something in the database, and you could scan it quickly. And I saw that come in when I was pretty much working part-time at Safeway, you see, and I was probably about 16 or 15 even, might have been 16. And I saw it come in, and
Right.
I thought, this is big time. There's got to be some work opportunities. And that's when I thought, now there's got to be an opportunity there for my work later on. So that's why I got into BEC, Basic Electronic Certificate, which I did within 6 months. Most people did over a year or more. And I managed to work really hard, as well as work part-time, and save up money for first car and all that sort of stuff. So it was good. On the same token, I came to third stage of the Social Diploma of Engineering course, and I was pulled out of my class because I asked the supervisor at the time, the course coordinator at the time where I was studying, said, are there any opportunities in the barcoding space? Is there any, companies looking for people? And he said yes. And he pulled me out of class one time and said, look, you're doing really well in those subjects. Have you thought about doing this and working for this company? I ended up working for a company called Intermec there for a while, and that was my first job. It was my introduction into the space of automation, I guess, in a sense. And I didn't, I was an early adopter of wireless technology even before I knew it. I was early 90s, and I was putting, wireless systems into warehouses at, 19 or something like that. I was pretty young, and it probably one of the pioneers of the industry at the time. So early adoption of CSMA as well, which is what they use. Started selling a lot of the mobile phones with that technology, and
That's
so spread spectrum
it's an amazing
technology.
journey.
Yeah, look, it all starts there, and computers was always a love of mine anyway. And I grew up with a lot of computers around me, and putting my first computer together, like DX, I think it was a DX2 66 meg or something. It was I think
66 meg,
I think it had
right?
like
And that
I
was
think
a
it had
lot
like
back then.
I think it had like 4 meg RAM and 120 megabyte, hard disk or something. That was a big deal back then.
Hard this. Yeah, it was.
So I was able to put one together pretty quick with a mate, and we got a computer going, and I was able to get onto. I think I loaded my first software of Steinberg, actually, or it would have been Cubase, and I got into MIDI as well and keyboard.
Cubase, yeah, Steinberg.
So I used tracks on keyboards and that I was using, and then later got into sequencing. I got into a bit of keyboard work, and I guess too later. So a lot of the tech stuff sort of really drilled me into more the production side as well, because I got into a lot of the later on to Boss BR8s and things like that. That's where I did a lot of my demos. And Tascam, the first cassette 4-track I had was a Tascam. It was a big deal. All that tech was really, in the late early 90s and late 80s, it sort of came in, and it was a big deal. But the Boss BR8 just sort of wiped everything. Like, it was a massive deal. You could do demos, take it to your studio where you're rehearsing, and record the band sort of thing straight off the desk and all that sort of stuff. So it was, I've still got even a lot of the early recordings that I did with one of my first bands was Sergeant Trouser. I think one of my first bands, but Bricks and Mortar, I've still got a lot of recordings.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that, brother. If you don't mind, if we can just shift gears a little bit. I want to ask you about bands and projects first and foremost. How did Bricks and Mortar first come together, and what was that era like for you?
Yeah, so 1990, probably the era from 89, 1995. I think, it's pretty much the Bricks and Mortar era for me. I think my first band was called Great Divide, actually. It was a band that I pulled together. We did the Fast Train project. It's not Fast Train. We did I call it the Safe Train project back at the time. It was run by, I think, Freezer Events, Nick Foer at Croydon Council. I think he's like a state member of parliament now, but a great advocate of youth, and did a lot for youth in that area of Croydon at the time. The idea was to stop graffiti on trains, so they ran a Safe Train initiative, and we were one of the first bands to play on it. And in fact, we were one of the first bands to record under the Croydon Hall there, Main Stage Studios. It's first demo with Jeff Day. He recorded it, and we did a demo of probably the first demo I did of Great Divide, actually, the song Great Divide, or The Great Divide. And then it was 4 tracks, but that was sponsored by a local grocer, and it was for the Checker of the Year competition, and I was able to compose a couple of songs, or arrange a couple of songs for that as well. And that paid for our first demo. So I was pretty happy about that as a kid. I think I was only 16. I do remember that. And yeah, we did our first recording, but from that, we actually played on the Safe Train, and we used to play on a Friday night going in and out on the Lilydale line. So you'd play in on the Friday night, play a set, and then you play a set on the way home. And that was great. And I still remember having my sister play bass. My sister was playing bass at the time in the band. And Mark Stevens, I think, on the guitar, and we had Andrew Rose on drums. I played guitar and sang, and played trumpet and stuff and keyboards. And we had another guy too. I just can't remember all the members, but that was like the first lineup. And then I think Bricks and Mortar came together from that, I think. Steve Lewis, I met Steve Lewis, who ran a studio. He set up a studio actually in Burwood called Stephen's Music Lab. Steve Lewis is a really big advocate of do-it-yourself back then, It was like the independent music scene was just do-it-yourself, really. And like you had bands like The Runaways, which later became The Living End, which you may know. So they rehearsed at this studio as well. I managed to, I guess Bricks and Mortar had a bit of a couple of lineup changes, and we had our first EP recorded. I think we recorded something like 30 songs, on the 24 track, really thick tape, reel to reel tape. And then we had, but there was a lot of change going on. I still remember it. And it was a reel to reel tape, but you'd go to an ADAT, which was basically two VHS cassettes, really. That's what they used. And so you'd have this big, thick, recording thing going to these, they call it ADATs, so, which were VHS. And so you'd have, actually it was 16 tracks, that's right. It was a 16 track thick recorder, reel to reel. So we'd put it might have been 24, I can't remember, but I don't think we ever used the 24 or whatever, but it was 16 tracks that we used, and we'd use a majority of it for drums and use a lot of it for added vocals and other bits and pieces. But we did record it, and we recorded it pretty well for back then. But we put it on ADAT, and then from ADAT, so you'd had two ADATs were 8 tracks each, I believe. So you could put them 8 track at a time, 8 tracks. So you'd put your drums down on the 8, then you'd do another 8, and then you sync them up. And you had this sync thing going on, so you'd have to sync it all up. So we always made sure that we synced everything up. But we'd rehearse quite regularly. Like, it was almost as though we went to the point of probably doing gigs and recording at the same time sometimes. But we had launch parties and things back then. It was Interesting times. I remember playing many venues. Central Club Hotel was probably the major venue that we played a lot of, and we also played a place called Joey's quite a lot. So that was in South Yarra, but also in St Kilda. So we played both of those venues, and even then,
Beautiful.
I remember playing the Art House quite a few times. I think we even played, there was some other venues too. I just can't think of them right now, but there was a lot of venues that were just opening up and they just had live music every night of the week, you know. It was, but it was a different time and we were very, very much writing songs a lot. I mean, I was pretty young, so I couldn't really drive around. So I used to rely on the drummer to drive me until I got my license. So that was Andrew
Right.
Rose. He's a really good guy, really good mate of mine. Ended up being his best man at his wedding, and he's such a great guy.
What made you create the Broken Sweethearts, and how did that project differ from your previous bands?
Okay, so Bricks and Mortar was still pretty fruition. It was still alive. So before Broken Sweethearts, there was a band called Sergeant Trouser, but I'll go into that in a minute. About Bricks and Mortar was a big deal for me because I wrote a lot of my songs over that period. So, and I probably didn't bring a lot of them to the band then, but I had a lot of them still on the shelf. We did do a lot of demos. So like I said, about 30 songs, and there's still about probably, I think we only released 5 songs on the EP. We released an EP, which was 6 tracks. So it had 5 tracks and an instrumental on it, which included a version of The Only One. You know, The Only One was there. It was probably the birth of The Only One of my first songs. And also Car Batteries is on there, but also had some really good songs on it. Like I think Sleeping Up Ladder was a massive song. We got played on all the Triple R, PBS, all the big community radio stations for that song, including Triple J.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure Triple J picked it up eventually on The Only One as well. And we were actually played on the same time when Spiderbait, Powderfinger, all those bands were taking off. You Am I. So we had a lot of, there was a lot of competition. It was a big deal. We probably, unfortunately, missed the boat a bit. I don't know, but I think we had that opportunity and we didn't release the other songs. We should have. At the time, I think we should have just done the full album and put it out. We really should have, because we still had those songs around. Unfortunately, we had an unstable lineup. We really we struggled to have a really decent bass player or drummer, the stable drummer. I think it was all about the stable drummer or the bass player. Like we had like 4 bass players at one point. We thought, nah, this is getting too hard. And then we had this bass player, Dave Brown, which stuck around. He was such a good guy, and it still is. We ended up being best mates, and we still are. I guess in a sense, I haven't seen him for a while, but you go through so many different changes. But the problem was we didn't have a stable drummer in the end. But we ended up getting a really good drummer though, Graham Twaits, in the end as well. So we were able to do our launch and do some pretty good shows. We ended up doing the launch at the Espy in the Gershwin Room, and in the audience was Louise Milligan, Four Corners reporter and journalist.
Wow.
So
yeah, tell us about that.
Pretty massive. Like she didn't even know she was ever going to be a journalist for ABC or whatever. So there you go. So, but we also had some really good people rock up to that gig, including Miff Warhurst got onto the band as well. She really liked what we were doing on Triple R as well. So I'd ring up Triple R and I'd always talking to Miff, can you plug our track this week because we're playing, this show here. And she always do it. She was great. Like back then you could do it, community radio is quite active in Triple R and PBS and all those other stations. I mean, where the connection with community radio came in as well for me personally, because I saw the importance of community radio as well being an integral part of the journey. And so I got interested in radio at a pretty young age. I was probably 16, 17 when I actually tried a few shows on ECB FM at the time, which is Radio East in Croydon. And
what year was this, Mark?
1986. Yep. So I played live for the first time, Great Divide, on that show on ECB FM. It would have been a Sunday show or a Friday night show. And I actually sat in and did a show with Paul Seidel. Paul Seidel went on and did a lot of shows with other radio stations. He actually went on to a lot of commercial radio stations, interstate and regionally, as well as here in Victoria. That gentleman's gone on big things. And I used to help out with his show quite a bit in Croydon. I got too busy with music. I just couldn't do it for a while. So I ended up giving that a miss. Just focused on my music. But the thing is, it gave me that chance to sort of give another look. Okay, it is really important. And later on, I saw the importance too when I released my first EP as a soloist, But before that, though, there were many other bands that I went through from Bricks and Mortar, from those early days. I was so well cherished and well. I guess we worked pretty hard at that band, and Steve Lewis, he's a great guy as well, and he's still very active as a writer. I think he put out a book a few years back, and he's a good writer as well. But we haven't seen each other for a while. We'll probably maybe reform the band or do something of that caliber someday. But that was more of a punk. That was more of a punk ska band, and I guess the EP Resisting Temptation was probably a really good first EP to release, to be quite frank. We got it out there in the sphere really well. That was really the industry
That's
picked it
so
up as well.
profound.
We had Jeff Jenkins, and people like that reviewing it, giving it positive reviews in Press and Beat magazine at the time, and we had a lot of good photos and great footage.
Yeah,
as well.
that's why I wanted to get you on the show. That's why I wanted to get you on the show, Mark, to give you your well-deserved respect and flowers for such a wonderful career, spanning so many different fields and industries and people. And this is what it's all about here on the Zeus podcast. But I wanted to get to a question I had in mind, my brother. Tell us about SGT Trouser. What was the story behind that and the vibe behind the brand?
Sergeant Trouser. What a great concept that was. I actually auditioned as a singer, and that's what I wanted to focus on, is being a singer. It took me a little while to realise that I could sing. In Bricks and Mortar, I was pretty much a band man. I was pretty much playing guitar, trumpet, and keyboards. I really found my skills in songwriting, but I also found my skill in singing, because I didn't realise I was. But everyone used to say, "Oh, you should be lead singer." I had thought about that, and I thought, well, yeah, maybe I should. And I guess Bricks and Mortar was the band where it broke up basically at the end of the day. The bass player left and I left, because the bass player, we were good mates. It was so hard to sort of stay around, a band that was...
Yeah, absolutely.
We couldn't
I
find a
understand
drummer.
that.
We couldn't find a drummer that was stable, I guess. I mean, I don't know what it was at the time. It was just hard to find drummers. And I think the dance scene, the rave scene took off, I think, as well. And so it was really all about DJs. So I just sort of thought, nah, bugger this. I'll focus on singing. And that's what I did. I started writing songs on my guitar and going back to my roots. And I started singing. Yeah.
What's your songwriting process like? I mean, do you start with lyrics, melody, a riff?
Look, it probably hasn't been as prolific only the last 5 years I've really been more prolific. But I guess those Bricks and Mortar days I was really prolific, though. And the 10 years after, or 15 years after, I was really prolific. I guess too, I managed to work quite a few jobs, and it was a bit hard to travel and do music there for a while. So I had to give it a bit of a miss for a bit. But in saying all that, though, it was really good for me, my headspace, but it was also very good for me to become aware of my singing ability. So I took up singing lessons. Danielle Sopio was my singing teacher, and ran out of singing school here in Melbourne. David Jans, I think, is school of singing, and she was a really good teacher. I was introduced to her because I wanted to do musicals. I was considering doing musicals, and I thought, well, I'll get some training off her. And she was just brilliant, great teacher, great motivator, the whole works, and awakened my voice big time. And I really worked it. I really, really worked it. And I also I think too, I auditioned for Sergeant Trouser, and it sort of changed my life. And I guess the band didn't really come up with a name straight away, but that was a different lineup. And it was Steve Van Emmerich playing bass, Ewan Murphy playing drums, and Rob Phelps. And it was a very stable lineup, to be quite frank. And they were all very level-headed guys and down to earth. And nothing was too serious. It was a fun game. It was a bit of a fun band, really. And I used to rock out, Mr. Serious probably, and I said, oh, let's try this song. And Rob had a heap of songs. Rob Phelps is a great songwriter too, and he doesn't realise it, and a great guitarist, great musician. And the guys actually were really good with me. I auditioned, and they tried out about 10 singers or something, and they were happy with a lot of them. And there's only 2 they really liked, and I sort of came up with the idea of original music, and they wanted to do their songs. And I said, let's try them. And so we came up with a lot of songs, and Ebony Street was one song that I'd always have, always had, but I never really caught it properly. I had a demo of it, and that was one of the songs that we recorded first, and we put an EP together. It was, we also put an early version of Happy Song together on that as well, and Forever Girl. There were songs that I wrote, and there were a couple of songs that I think Rob wrote, and Steve as well. Steve wrote True Way, and there was another one on there. I just can't think of it right now. I think Dreams and Runaway were also other songs on there that I didn't write, but I played trumpet and sang, and it was such a great band. And Sergeant Trousers seemed like the the name to have, and it was, I don't know how we came up with it, but anyway, we wanted something funny. We wanted something like Sergeant something, and I said, what about Trouser? Just a fun name. And of course, I had this song called Trouser Party anyway, back then. And I introduced them to the Trouser Party song, and I thought, well, why don't we call it Sergeant Trouser and make a fun gimmick out of it? And it was just fun. And we had our first EP was We Could Be Happy, and we put it was more of a demo EP that we put together 6 tracks. And out of the Jam Hut, we recorded with George Elliott Swanson back then. He was very active around the scene as well. The Jam Hut was really well known. Mendo used to run that, and he's now a state member of Parliament, I think, or working in Parliament somewhere, or transport or something, I don't know. And he's very active as well as Nick Fowler is as well. So, but these guys, I mean, those guys are running those studios are really dynamite, and they were in touch with a lot of people. You don't realise, but they knew everyone, you know. So, I guess we got heard
out there.
We also got heard on a few other stations just by that as well. We rehearsed there regularly. And Body Jar were in the other room. There were bands like Body Jar. There was Helmet, I think, before Body Jar. But there was, there's quite a few bands that used to rehearse at the Jam Hut, and mainly, 3 or 4 bands would probably get heard out of that studio. And we were well received. I know Sergeant Trouser were well received at Joey's in St Kilda. We played there a lot. And we also played the Espy front bar here and there. And also looked at Sookie's Lounge, which was Ruby's in Belgrave, Prince of Wales. Yeah, we played quite a few shows, and I was really wrapped, and managed to get us on quite a few festivals too, just a couple of festivals, which was great, which helped us.
Right.
We got on some pretty good community festivals, and they were very, very supportive. But we had an EP, and we did another EP called Time Will Tell, which I'll probably re-release and redo Time Will Tell at some stage in a more production side of things. But it's such a great band to play. And we released a later album called Bam Bam Shazam, and which worked really well.
Brother, let me ask you, which one of your original songs means the most to you personally, and why?
Interesting you saying that. Look, it's a really good question, I've got to say. I know I've written quite a few songs now, like probably over 100 now. It's bizarre. My last count was about 120 songs I've written, but I think the one that really stood out to me was Ebony Street, and it still does, in a sense that it was a song that was written from the 90 Mile Beach, and it was a song that I could relate to in a lot of senses and a lot of different scenarios. Like in a band sense, I could relate to people. In a just playing acoustic guitar in a solo sense, I can relate it to people. Even in a duo sense, it works in every platform I've used it in. So that's a test of a good song, and I think that's one that's pretty close. But also, The Great Divide definitely is, because it's got a few messages in it, and indirectly, it's sort of over time, it's sort of grown with me, and it still is, I guess, a message that we need to be heard out there, and we got to look after our heritage basically, and look after what we have, because even tomorrow, I mean, the next 10 years with AI. You never know. The music scene may not be the same as it is right now. So I don't know. Who knows?
It's already changing at the moment. It's already changing. There's already so many lawsuits out there with AI and copyrights, things in regards to original creations, and there should be more restrictions on the release of AI, I think.
Again, that's a tough question. And in terms of the brass sort of songs, certainly there are songs that I probably haven't even explored more of in the brass sense, and I think they're coming. I think that I've sort of got a bit more of a wiser ear now, that I can experiment a little bit more with the brass and bring out some more brassy sort of tunes. And I have been probably the last 4 to 5 years, you probably hear more instrumental stuff that I've released, and I have. There was I guess a bit of a best of instrumental that I put together, which was called Reflections and Moments. It still is available. And I have got a CD, and this is the artwork, and I've been printing those off, and they'll be out soon in a physical sense, so that you'll be able to buy them at the gigs. I've also been doing this album, which is an electronic album, which I put together at home, recorded this more recently, last year, and that is No Day Is Like Tomorrow. You may hear that on sound. It's on my SoundCloud, but it's also on Bandcamp now. So, and I'll more than likely release that on Spotify at some stage. I haven't released that on Spotify yet. You already know this one, The Great Divide. That's been out and about for some time. So I'm re-releasing this as a 12-track album, and that's going to be a physical, which is going to have Hearts on Fire on there, Great Divide, Take Me Home, Rain on My Parade, House of Love, because House of Love is another song that I really enjoy playing, and it gets people singing. And I've noticed it even works more and more with people you don't even know. So they're pretty close songs. So it's a really hard question, that one. So there's probably 3 or 4 songs. Hearts on Fire is another one. Just, I get a great response. House of Love is just great fun, and this is going to have Here We Go on it. Time Will Tell. Shooting Star, which I did with Sergeant Trouser. Tom, and also I'm a Monkey, the funky one. That's one I did with Sergeant Trouser. And Angel is another song that I hadn't released as yet, and that's going to be included, as well as Forever Girl, different arrangement of Forever Girl, which I've released them on Bandcamp, but I want to re-release this as a physical, and I think it's important. So I'm re-releasing quite a bit of stuff, and you'll probably see some more stuff come out. So I've been working on I recorded all my new songs just on my phone, and I'm going to release that as an album too very soon as well. So it's the solo guitar.
So you recorded it on your phone. Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, I just did it on my phone. That's it. Just raw, just straight off. So I'll be releasing that as a bit of a fun thing to do as well. But yeah.
Well, with over 1,000 gigs under your belt, what's the most memorable performance of your career?
Interesting question. I guess too, I've played in different scenarios, right? So I've played in big bands. I played some pretty big tribute shows. I played in some massive shows as well, like Hamer Hall, world record stuff. I did a world record show, the Italian show, recently with John St. Peters, and that was just amazing. Look, I've got to say, of all of my original gigs, I think the SB playing the Gershwin Room and the front bar is definitely the highlight to me, because that's the essence. I think you're at the upper echelon of the music game when you start playing these sort of venues, and particularly when you're playing originals. And when I played in Looney Tunes, for instance, Ska Band, I really enjoyed that as well at the front bar, but also the Evelyn Hotel as well. Very memorable gigs, and the Ska Band scene is massive here in Melbourne, and I really enjoyed playing in Looney Tunes, playing trumpet and keys, but mainly trumpet. That was just joy. But playing on Hamer Hall and the Palais Theatre with Andrew McSwain Big Band with John St. Peters shows has been massive, and that world record breaking Italian show that I shared the stage with Alana as well, and that was just fantastic, just to be one of those 117 musicians playing trumpet. That was just the highlight of my musical career. Absolutely, and being acknowledged. Look, it's just good to be acknowledged, and it's great to be recognised to be playing amongst these sort of musicians. I'm talking about some top musicians on stage as well. Like there's Damon Brunton is an amazing trumpet player as well. In the trumpet section, we had some amazing players, and not just that, the drummer and the guitarist. Michael Zammit is just an amazing producer as well, local producer, but he played guitar as well in the band. And there's just amazing musicians. And I mean, John St. Peters is just an amazing piano player and an arranger as well. Some of the biggest arrangements of music. John St. Peters just does amazing tricks on stage, and to be part of that,
Absolutely.
it's just another culture, just to be as well, just to be part of that as well. It's just awesome. But yeah, I guess too, in a solo and a solo acoustic sense too, playing some of these big festivals, playing a festival in Bendigo too, some arts and blues festival I played, and I did some recording. That's right, some mixing for some pretty big bands. So that was back would have been 2010 or 2011. Back then, even that was a highlight. The Broken Sweethearts playing St Kilda Festival, playing the SB at the front bar with those guys was just a highlight as well. And it's on video. We did a video. The guy who took the video was the filming guy from Survivor. Is one of the guys who works really closely with Survivor. So I worked with some massive people, some people in the production sense as well. And Channel 31's been great in Pit Lane. That was great to be part of that as well. And that's been part of it. It's helped me. Community TV has been a great, big, integral part of where I am today, because it certainly has helped me with Happy Song, has helped me with What's the Colour of Money, another song that I wrote, but also Walk On By more recently. And, those sort of shows that you got to revisit them and support them. Again, community radio, community TV, getting involved, engaging in bigger platforms or bigger shows has been just amazing and collaborative.
But I haven't actually had the chance to thank you publicly for having me on your radio show. And
You're
Thank you,
right.
my brother. I really appreciate
Most
it. It
welcome.
was a great honor for me to jump on and perform my tracks on community radio. It's such a great thing you're doing up there. So I just wanted to tell you thank you from the bottom of my
Thank you.
heart.
It's great to have you on, and great to have you as a guest.
Thank you.
And again, it's an honor to run that show myself. Being asked being part of that 3MDR team is just great to run Blast Off every Friday night between 5 and 7 on 97.1 FM. Yeah, live. I do try and treat it as live as possible, and we have some great guests on that come in from all walks of life, and you're a key part of it. Podcasting is now taking off, so I've got to start involving yourself, and thank you for including me on your
Thank you.
podcast tonight.
No,
And
it's an
today.
absolute pleasure to have you. I wanted to give you your well-deserved flowers while you're here on this earth to accept them.
Thank you.
I did want to ask you, brother, my absolute pleasure. I did want to ask you, what's the wildest or funniest thing that's ever happened to you on stage?
Yeah, that's a
That you
really
can share.
that I can share. Okay. Well, I've had some interesting experience. I've had gigs out in far north Victoria, far east Victoria, far west. I remember doing a show far west of Victoria, and it was a netball team and a football team function. And the president, wouldn't tell me what time this gig would finish. And I did ask the question, so what happened, when do we finish? And anyway, it was, 3 sets in, everything's going really well. And then netball team comes in and they're dancing on the tables and stuff like that. And that was pretty wild, put it that way. And it was just a crazy time. But I ended up doing 6 sets, solo acoustic, with these guys dancing in front of me and having fun. And that was the essence. And I think it was 150 odd people in the room. It was nuts, and got them all singing as well. It was just great fun. We had a ball, and the president was so very supportive. And again, to this day, it just astounded me. I've never done 6 sets before. I don't know how I did it back then. Even like I remember drinking heaps of water. I'm very fit back then. I was back when I was probably half my age, I guess, and I was pretty fit. But it was far west Victoria. I'm pretty sure it was Dimboola. It's quite whoop. It's at 4 or 5 hours from home. But I slept overnight. Next morning, I don't think I could talk. I lost my voice, I think, the next day. And I still remember it. I still remember that gig to this day, and just the amount of songs I played. I even surprised myself. And those sort of gigs you just love, and they stay with you.
I mean, how do you keep a live show fresh, after playing so many gigs over the years? How do you keep it fresh?
Well, it's a good question. And again, you just got to keep rotating your songs, or find that niche that you're unique with, and finding where your energy comes from. That's really important, I think, too. Just if you know where that energy naturally comes from, you can capture that quite well live. Like, if you what's your favorite experience, for instance, is a thing that I always ask when they come on my show. What's who inspired you? I think too is a major thing that I ask, because there are certain inspirations that certainly try and test you out as well. I mean, one of the major ones that I grew up seeing and listening to when I was growing up was James Morrison. And when I saw him play at Carolina Theatre with his brother John, I think at the time, I'm pretty sure I was about 16, 15, 16. I was pretty young. In Ringwood, I went saw them live, and that changed my life, because James Morrison was that active. He'd run up and down, play the trumpet, then play piano. He'd play saxophone, play trombone. He played all those instruments. And I said to, I think my friend at the time was sitting with me, one day I want to do that, but I want to be able to sing and play guitar as well. And I've stuck to that goal all my life. I think that guy was probably one of my key inspirations of all the energy, and how he managed that energy is amazing. He focused on so many different things. And I think that's the key.
Absolutely.
If you keep it open like that, and keep your audience entertained, I think you're pretty much on the right path. And that's what I try and do. And I try and keep it fresh. And I play in different units in different bands because of that too, because I can learn a lot from that as a discipline. If you learn different styles of music you're growing up, it rubs off later on for sure. And in the original sense too, it's just when you're writing songs, it tends to rub off. Like even tonight or today when I was rehearsing with my duo partner, I tried some trumpet things, and I thought, that might sound a bit better with the Latin or Spanish style. So I'm trying something a little bit different with the duo. And I think you got to try different things, and it keeps it a bit more fresh as well. And even different tempos, like even different time signatures when you're writing songs.
Yeah.
Just little things. If you just try a different rhythm, And that's another thing I tried with my album United We Stand, which is also the song Happy has just been going haywire. It's streaming, like I've had 25,000 streams or something since that was released. That song Happy is just going AWOL. So is No Ordinary Girl and Walk On By. There's quite a few songs on that album just really taking off. Great Divides really starting to spin off, and Hearts on Fire as well again.
So
Those
after,
platforms are unbelievable out there, streaming platforms as well. Like Reverb Nation helped me, and I'm still in the top 5. I've been in the top 5. Or you need them though, as an artist, you need them, and they help you,
absolutely,
and you can get your
it helps you grow, yeah, of
name out,
course.
helps you grow, and you get more of a name out there, and people realize, and people take notice in the industry. They go, "Wow, this guy's quite still around, doing live shows."
Right. So let me ask you, after 15 years, what's the biggest lesson that music has taught you about life?
I'll be very patient. You got to be very patient, and you got to look after your. No, one of the things you got to do is look after
Right.
yourself. Your health is very important, but also looking after your fans and looking after people around you, because you never know when you need them. Because you've got that support base. If you leave home and you go overseas and you come home, you got to have that support base. So it's really important to look after that.
Yeah.
And
Of course.
I've been doing it. I've been making sure that that's working, and I think it is. And I probably will look at overseas, like doing some shows overseas at some stage, and come home and I definitely play. Like Bendigo is really important to me. I find Bendigo is a great place to play. I find Melbourne's a great place to
Shout
play
outs
still.
to the Bendigo music scene.
And the places where I've played, everywhere, Cockatoo RSL, all those smaller venues, even the small bars like Mr. Boogeyman Bar, they're really important. Without them, we do not have somewhere to play or rehearse our product, or our brand. It's not a product; it's a song. A song is important to get the message out there, and you need a platform.
All right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the next 10 questions I want to ask you, Mark, are rapid fire questions.
Yeah, go for it.
What keeps you excited about music when so many veterans like yourself eventually burn out? Well, what keeps you excited?
Oh, the stories. There's lots of stories to tell. Lots of change going on. Yeah.
Looking back, which period of your career do you consider your golden years, and why?
Golden years? Gee, I don't know. Look, I think 2010, 2014, because I did do a lot in that space of time. Or 2009 to 2014. Not only did I play to 25,000 people at Glenferrie Oval with the Hawks, all their fans, after a major grand final. 2008, that was, sorry. So 2008 to 2014, that was a major thing for me. Like it was, that was, being a vocalist, trumpeter, guitarist, keyboard player, that was huge. And being a Hawks fan, it was just a massive day for me personally. And
yeah,
very
we're
thankful.
both Hawks fans on that token. Let's just quickly give a shout out to all the Hawks fans out there. Go to Hawks.
Go the Hawks. Go the Hawks. Fantastic though, a fantastic club, and congrats to the guys. Shane Crawford was a great guy. I met him. He blew my trumpet. He picked up, haven't played. I said, "Yeah, go for it, mate. You deserve it." It was 2008. They won the grand final, so I thought, "Yeah, go for it, mate."
Yeah, I remember.
And those guys were so very supportive, and the club were just.
I think I still got the 2008 championship hat. I decided to keep it one day. I think I still got it. I remember these are rapid fire.
But yeah, that was very significant, that period of time, also because I also recorded quite a lot of stuff. But on that principle, also I played in Looney Tunes, a ska band, for quite a while actually, would have been good 3-4 years. And also Broken Sweethearts started to form. And I got involved with Broken Sweethearts, and we recorded a lot of stuff. And we recorded one time we recorded about 30 songs in one weekend, and we still have those recordings, and you never know what will come out of that still. Steve Ryan Gledhill has done an album recently with featuring a couple of those songs as well, which was great to be part of that, and that was a collaborative effort really in a sense as well. And Steve Ryan Gledhill, I've got to put my hat off to him because he started up the Broken Sweethearts, and, he also entertained the idea to playing at the Veg Out, which was a veggie patch in St Kilda, and really introduced me to a lot of the St Kilda crowd. And I ended up playing shows supporting Jack Howard, some pretty big acts as well at the time. So over that time, and also playing the SB, I played some pretty significant gigs, Prince of Wales. There was some massive people. Also played with Crystal Mercy, a really big Indigenous hip-hop act. Look her up. She has put a documentary together on SBS, hip-hop act. She's great. Indigenous, and there's even footage of us playing on Fed Square and some of the spiritual festivals we did with her. Because we played Fed Square, we supported Jessica Malboy, Archie Roach, quite a few big acts too at the time. And that was massive, playing at a trumpeter. It was great fun, with Justine Jones and also Steve Ryan Gledhill on the bill as well. We played. But Broken Sweethearts was a great band. Great band.
All right, let's continue with these rapid fire questions. What's a career decision that you made that really paid off in the long run?
I guess making decision to play trumpet, to be quite honest, and stick with it, because a lot of people don't play trumpet and guitar and keyboard. So being multi-instrumental is probably the best decision I ever made. So I'm very multi-instrumental, I guess, in that sense. And I'm glad I stuck with playing all those instruments and being disciplined to have the time to play those instruments too. When I was going through quite a bit as a youngster as well, it was quite, I ended up being quite recluse in the sense that I look, not a recluse, but I used to go out socially, but I was just very much introvert for quite a while, and I got into music and I really wanted to learn my instruments, and that's why. And I used to give up a lot of stuff to do it. Yeah. I don't think people realize what you give up to do it.
Is there a gig or project you regret, and what did it teach you?
I think walking away from Looney Tunes was a big regret in my sense. The ska band was such a vital scene, I think, too. I think too, look, I've still got the option to possibly play in that band or playing that in the scene, and I'd love to. But I do regret sort of walking away from that a bit, because it was, I had the opportunity, well, I certainly played with some pretty big artists like Area 7 and in sharing the stages with some pretty big acts and the guys in that. And to be honest, that band is still going to be going places, I think. That look, I don't really have that many regrets, but it's probably one of the biggest ones, because I think it's such a fun band, it was just good fun. You just play drum. And I just play fun, it's just play trumpet, it's just fun. And I think that's the essence of, I think that's something to take away from that. And it's got to be fun. And if you're not enjoying it, walk away, sort of thing. So I guess, I there are regrets and there's no regrets, because I moved on and I've been able to do a lot of stuff myself and move on to other projects. So, but I've done a lot of recordings with different people.
So how has your relationship with music changed from when you were younger till now?
Look, I probably wisened up a bit. Probably I focus on more of the show now than say, play here, play there, play every night of the week, sort of thing. I play sort of once or twice a month now, not too many times. You know what I mean? So I'm quite picky too now what I do. If it's not going to work as a solo act, I'll try duo, or I'll try a band, or I'll join a band, or to practice my trumpet skills, I'll go back to my roots where I learnt to play trumpet, or really hone my playing skills, which was brass band, and big bands and things like concert bands and that. And that's what I do. So I'm still quite active in that sense. So it really helps you motivate to play a lot more.
Beautiful. As a veteran multi-instrumentalist, how was your approach to musicianship? How has that deepened over time?
Yeah, probably become more aware of arrangements, and probably the deeper thought of how that arrangement would come about or who it's by. And I think community radio has sort of helped me in that sense too. So I've been able to explore how we interview on community radio and how different artists react to things. Because there's a lot of change going on, and there's always one of the things that remains constant is always change. And I think that's one big aspect that I've learnt over time is that patience as well, and just to sometimes you have to sit back and just smell the roses a bit and enjoy it. And but also it's great to be part of a community that does a lot of charity work, I guess, in a sense that is not charity, but it's supportive mechanism. And I think community radio is great for that engagement. And it's given me more of an awareness of who's around and how we can tap into different communities and different, cultural parts of our local community. And I think it's really good to be aware of that. And I never really saw that when I was younger. So I've been open to playing in different sort of bands as well with that as well. Like a Cumberland band I played in for a little while, which I wasn't sure of, but I played trumpet in that. That was amazing. I played a couple of shows. There was another one. Obviously, the ska scene was massive, and I never was really aware of it until I started exploring more of community radio. So community radio, say, with 3WBC, I was on there for about probably 7 to 10 years on a Sunday show, Sunday Travel, or Australian Made Show for a while. So it would have been about seven years. And then I, about 4 years later, sort of did Southern FM for a while, about 3-4 years. And then obviously 3MDR the last three years. Yeah, I suppose it's going to be 3 years next month. So I think community radio really does help me in a sense of reaching out to help other artists, but also running open mics. I've run a few, Cornerstone Hotel and also Whole Lot of Love. I ran the Whole of Love Bar for quite a while as well, which really opened another community as well up. And I was able to help a lot of musicians and also create a bit of a scene with that and the cornerstone as well. And it was really good. And having those people behind you as well when you start playing those sort of venues as well helps as well. So it all helps. Again, it just taps into different communities and helping others. And also
that's what it's all about, really.
It opens your door to collaborative work as well. So I ended up recording with a band called was Cam Holmes, his band there for a while, as well as working with John Hunter on a few solo shows. Edward Nass opening up the doors to play at the Bad Folk Club and a few other things out in the east. But yeah, just you never know what's around the corner. About over a year, I played with the Solar Lure, for instance, another Egyptian act. Amazing artist. Again, an act that probably should get more recognised here, but unfortunately, I don't know why, but we just don't seem to be open to different cultures for some reason. So again, I'm very open to that and very inclusive of different cultures. I think we have to be, regardless of who we are.
I think we have to be, of course. Now, as a veteran, what advice would you give to young bands trying to build a career in Melbourne today?
Look, definitely keep your mind open to different genres, but also help others. Range your show and invite them in to help you with your show too, because, maybe get them on the door and help your show, or, find out what they do as well, or get a support band that you think, or if you just don't be afraid to approach people in community, throughout communities, because there are different people that do different things. You never realise who you meet, and be aware of your limitations too. You can't do everything, and that's one thing I wasn't aware of, because you think you can do everything when you're young, So
Absolutely.
you've got to have the right people around you, and I think it's important.
You have limitations as well. Know your limits.
Yeah. No, you got to know your limits, and I think that's one of the things you got to learn. And you do have to bring a manager or some other promoter in, or some other people. I've worked with agents and different people over the time, but bookers and managers at times. I've had someone step in and just help me organise shows, and I probably need to do that again. To be quite honest, to the point where I just sometimes get so busy that with my own life, it's just too hard to organise shows. And it's second nature for me. The hustle is an interesting game. Everything's negotiable as far as I'm concerned, but not everything. You can't sell yourself out, so you really do need a manager to step in. You can't sell your soul.
Yeah, absolutely. Having said that, what are some of the unique struggles that only long-term independent musicians understand?
Yeah, look, you probably, if you're an independent artist like I've been, I guess, and a lot of us are, to be quite frank, and you got to look after your brand, protect your copyright. They're the major things. Sign up with APRA, get to know the industry, see how it works, understand the business. And I mean, at the end of the day, there's so many platforms like podcasting here. There's, you streaming, there's, YouTube, there's, get your video going, get your comms going, get the communication up, get the awareness campaign going. Yeah, keep the strategy alive. You might be quiet for a little while. You might not have a release for a bit. So, I would look at a strategy where you release a single at a time. Now, I wouldn't release an album till you really need to. It's probably all about the song now and the single. But don't give into that either. Go against the tide too. Pull out the album, or pull out 3 albums in 1 year, or 10. Who cares? There's no limit to the seed that you can sow as an artist, and be realistic about though. And I think that's one of the major things. You got to set yourself a budget and go, well, okay, that's all I can spend, and then there's only so much you can do, physically as well. Be aware of that. I think too, your own health is everything. I sort of fell into a crack in the last couple of years, I guess the end of last year, sort of fell into a rabbit hole, I guess, with my health, and sort of getting out of that now. But it's one of those things that catches up with you. You've got to have your sleep. So get your sleep. That's all I can say.
What's the financial reality of being a seasoned musician in Australia?
Well, look, I think it's getting better, because you don't have to record. You don't have to go to massive studios anymore. You can record at home and send it off to get mixed. So $1,000, you could probably do a full album. $1,000 these days. You know what I mean? You can record it all at home and then get it remixed and then master it if you want. I guess too, production wise though, if you want to really bring it up to another level, you need to spend the buck. So $1,000 on a song in a decent studio is probably a pretty decent price to pay, reasonably priced for one song.
Per song?
professionally mixed, professionally mastered, but it's up to you to do the marketing side. So you need to spend the extra dollars, perhaps to do the marketing yourself. And that is, you could do it yourself for sure, but it's going to be your time. Just remember, it's going to take time. And you need to be patient. So you need to spend the bucks to, $200, $250 or whatever, $300 on a publicist to get your song out there in community radio, for instance, is not unreal. That's quite realistic, good month. And to organise gigs, you got to organise the gigs yourself. Maybe talk to an agent or a couple of agents or know someone, or speak to people see what they can do for you. Get on there, be a support act or, try and get on and play some shows that maybe more strategic. You might want to get on and approach some of these big bands. Doesn't hurt. You never know. They might, while they're touring in the area,
never know.
While they're touring in the area, they might need a decent support. So hit them up, and do a really good video or do a really good show somewhere with a good review, and send them the review and get talking. Hustle them. It is a hustle, and you got to talk to a lot of people. But if you've got someone, that's what a manager's for. So if you get a manager or a publicist, you're on your way. You get them on their side. Naturally,
yeah, but a lot of people, Mark. Sorry, a lot of people, they haven't got money for publicists or managers.
No, yeah.
I've been having to do everything myself on the hip hop side.
Yeah,
whether it's marketing, managing, PR, branding, sales, everything I've had to do it myself. It's only until recently have I had a bit of help. I want to give a quick shout out to Elena Di Fiore, and she's phenomenal and helping me with the release of my latest track called Unity.
Awesome.
Featuring NJE and Mez and Yulani and Zarina on the harmonies. So I want to give a massive shout out to Eleanor, and she has been instrumental in helping me with this. Not only that, but mentoring me and really guiding me and helping me. So a massive shout out to Eleanor. And she is one of those light workers that I cannot do an episode without giving her a shout out. So Eleanor, thank you. You are appreciated.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, she's great.
I wanted to ask you, brother, what's the secret to delivering a strong performance even when you're not feeling your best?
Now that, again, I did perform with the Broken Sweethearts, and we did a video. That video we're talking about, that live video. I was under the weather. I had the worst flu, and it was all recorded, but you wouldn't have known. You wouldn't have known I had the flu. I just went on. I drank lots of water. I had the right drinks. I had a lot of fluids. I had a lot of stuff that I took beforehand. I made sure that I had fluid on hand. I was positive spirited as well. And I had, I made sure I was right for the gig, but I could just get through. Like it was a tough one because I remember at the time, there was a lot of filming going on, and I thought, I've got to be there. I've got to do it. I nearly pulled out, but I thought, no, we've got to do it. And thank God we did. We did do it because it's documented and it's on YouTube and people can see it.
Before I forget, a massive shout out to Fine Tune PR, her company. So I just wanted to get that out there as well. Fine Tune PR, it's phenomenal in helping artists grow and navigate the murky waters of the behind the scenes music world. There's the creative side, and then there's the business side, and then there's the behind the scenes. She does everything.
Yeah, no, she's amazing.
She's amazing.
And she got behind the latest the world record Italian show. That was a massive show. So good on Eleanor as well.
So Mark, let me ask you, what kind of legacy do you want to leave in Melbourne's music community?
Oh, that's look, leaving a legacy is a big deal, and I think being a part of the Guitar for Veterans Australia charity's been a great one for me because I've been able to help people indirectly through a great charity that looks after expats or people that have served the country. Basically give them a reconditioned guitar, acoustic guitar that's been sitting in the corner, and we give them a guitar and we give them free 10 lessons, for free. And I think that's really great, and it's good to be part of that and to organise money as well to go towards that. So at least it gives people the opportunity to take up a musical instrument if they're suffering from mental health issues or anything like that. PTSD being the number one effect as well of a lot of different mental health issues. And I mean,
for expats and veterans.
Yeah, I mean, I've personally gone through some stuff myself through a car accident, and PTSD was a major thing. And I think too, if I can share that, through that, that's great. Or, a cause like that's been awesome. But also leaving a great legacy in through music as well, through the messages, through song is the greatest gift I can leave this great earth. That, if I am 6 foot under, at least there's something that I can say I've left behind, and a good message and some some great music, and that's the legacy I'd love to leave. There's still lots of music in me, and I think there'll be a lot more albums coming out very soon, in the next few years. I think
That's a
I think
beautiful answer.
it's the best thing to leave is something positive, it's but also
Absolutely.
shared experiences. It's always great to share the experiences that you may live, even through other people's eyes. It's great, to share a story. Yeah,
Absolutely. Now, if you could play one dream show anywhere in the world with any lineup, what would that look like?
What do you mean, play on a festival with massive bands, or you talking about?
Yeah,
or?
like one dream show.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to play on the same stage as Split Ends or Crowded House, or even if In Excess reformed and wanted me to be a front singer, I'd love it.
That would be
it'd be
amazing.
awesome. It'd be awesome to play with those sort of guys. Even when I'm older, it'd be great to share the stage with some of these massive guitarists. Even Eric Clapton or someone like that, or Paul McCartney. What an experience that'd be, playing with Paul McCartney or something in his band, or even Michael Bublé or any of those sort of guys. It'd be great to share. Playing the trumpet section or something. Playing, backing up Billy Joel or, Elton John or something like that. It's fantastic to be in one of those bands, or even write a song, co-write a song with one of those guys, or, even Mark Seymour.
That's a great answer.
Even Mark Seymour would be awesome to co-write a song and play some songs with him. Some great, in Australia, we have some great songwriters, and it'd be great to co-write with, people like Ivor Davies or, Joe Camilleri, those sort of guys, and, even just share the stage with Wilbur Wilde, playing horns, it's just awesome, just to get on, and everything's possible.
Has there ever been a moment, brother, where you almost walked away from music completely?
Absolutely. There was a moment like I had probably just on COVID, really, when COVID hit, was just about I'd sort of walked away from teaching music privately, really, the last couple of years, because it was just getting too hard privately and juggling a lot of things, and I nearly walked away from music after COVID. I thought, oh, this is the end, the live scene's over. But no, I've got back into it, and I think I want to do it more and more now, So, it's not something I could walk away from. It's not that easy to walk away because my heart's too entrenched in it,
If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, just starting out in music, what would it be?
Focus on the trumpet. I think if I focused on trumpet, I'd probably be a lot better.
What were the hardest years of your music journey?
What were the hardest years of the music game? Probably the last, I don't know. I think 2000 I went through a stage where 2015 to 2017 was pretty difficult, actually, for me. I was running an open mic, but it was just difficult because I was sort of in between projects, I think, at the time, and I just wasn't sure whether I releasing the new album, or because I had an EP out for ages, and you can only promote it for so long. And I thought, well, I've got to release something. I started releasing stuff again on 2018. I thought, oh, yes, I re-released something online, and I thought, no, look, I'll work on a new album. So I started writing again and really got going. And I think the spur of it was really a friend of mine passed away from pancreatic cancer, and I got involved in the Music Mayhem project.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, it's Cam Holmes. He was a great artist. He would have been a massive blues artist, I reckon, now. But it's a shame. No, thanks, mate. And he's left a great legacy with music too, and it was great to be part of his journey. Actually, I was helping him at Whole of Love, and I think too, if I go back a little bit too, it was a hard time, but it was a good time too, because I was able to get my own stuff together, I guess, and relaunch myself in a more creative sense, I guess. And I really started honing in on what I was good at, just going organically. Yeah, I'm actually quite a good teacher. I still did teach, and I ended up teaching in some of the primary schools, and that really launched my teaching career in the electronic sense too. Like my day job, I was always in the electronic space and automation and barcoding. And I think I got to the point where I just got sick of doing it as well. Between probably 2018 to 2020, I started to say, I don't know about this anymore. So I really changed career. Like I was really on the verge of just changing careers into more teaching. So I still did private teaching with music, and I kept that going. I actually relaunched it, and I ended up teaching in 3 different schools there for a bit privately, as well as my own. And then I was working about 3 or 4 jobs as well, and relaunched. Basically, I got into one, just doing one then in the end, and I was a little bit burnt out, I guess, doing way too much. And then I backed off a little bit and just did private teaching with trumpet and guitar, but I was doing a bit of harmonica at the
Well, God bless you, man.
Hoskins Music as well there for a while, and it was great. And that's where adult learners came in. I thought, well, there's got to be, because I did do my Cert 4 in training and assessment back in 2014, so 401 TAE, and then I saw this job offer come up. I thought, this opportunity came up through an agent. He said, would you like to work for this mob and teach? And I said, yeah, I've been looking for teaching for ages, and it came up in electronics comm, so I just went for it and I got the job. So, and it changed my life. So the last 3 years have been great, and I think I was a little bit lost before that, actually. Quite frank, I got sort of jaded of the industry. I think that I was in, not jaded, but I probably got to the point where I just could only do so much. I was doing technical sales, and I probably should have been more hands-on tech, because I'm a tech guy in a real aspect. But in the same token, it was great for me creatively as well, and musically. Like, I was able to teach and had a lot of time to teach as well. So it was good. I was working for myself pretty much from home, so I had a lot of time on my hands. But it went quiet because of COVID, and COVID set in, and it really did set me back a bit. And
yeah, it destroyed a lot of industries at the time.
Yeah, but I was lucky because I'm a skilled person, and I was able to really
essential worker.
reflect. Yeah, essential worker too, and I was able to reflect a lot better as well, and just go, look, this is what I'm good at, and I think go for this, and I made the right decision, and here I am today, and I'm still able to play my music and write music, and as well as teach and do what I love doing, and exploring
God bless
new
you,
avenues,
man.
yeah. And new
God
goals. I'm
bless you.
exploring a lot of new goals, yeah, which is great. Yeah. So,
If this was your final public conversation, what message would you leave behind for the world?
wow. Yeah, just maintain faith and believe in yourself, and don't give up. Yeah, keep doing what you're doing. What you enjoy doing, go for it, and help others on the way, because you never know when you need their help. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And thanks very much.
Thank you so much, man, for coming onto the Zeus podcast tonight.
Thanks.
Conversations like this, brother, they matter because they remind people that real artistry still exists. Real musicianship still exists. Real human depth still exists. Thank you for sharing your journey, my brother, your wisdom and your truth with us tonight.
Don't forget to go to www.markgardner.com.au. Check out my music, and Mark Gardner and the Great Divide, band.bandcamp.com, yeah, and check out my music. Great, thank you.
Final word for any young musician coming up that's looking to you like you are everything to his world. What would you say to him?
Yeah, look, don't give up, and keep moving forward. And if you need to improve on something or learn from something, or don't be afraid to make mistakes, because you're human, and we all make mistakes, and sometimes they work out pretty well. The mistakes that you make actually sometimes work out really well. So don't be afraid to make a mistake, and keep doing what you're doing, and keep believing in yourself, because really, you don't know what's around the corner. You really don't.
Exactly. Mark, thank you so much for your time, brother.
Thank you very much, Zeus. Yeah, all the best too. Fantastic.
God bless you guys. Zeus out.
Thank you.
Take care, brother. It was a pleasure.
Good night. Thank you.